The Resident Evil franchise has been on a roll ever since it turned its fortunes around with Resident Evil 7 in 2017, having delivered a string of stellar, all-time classic survival horror titles in the years since then.
Zoe, come look. Come see her gift. Look at all the pretties my little girl is giving me!
But with Resident Evil Village now well over 3 years old, fans are growing increasingly antsy about the series' next mainline numbered entry, and when the developer will choose to announce it. The only thing that we officially know about Resident Evil 9 so far is that it's being helmed by Koshi Nakanishi, who last directed Resident Evil 7, and with Monster Hunter Wilds clearly being the big focal point in 2025, it's looking unlikely that an official announcement and accompanying details for the next installment in its beloved horror franchise will arrive in the immediate future. As ever though, there's no shortage of unofficial information out there. Over the last several months and years, leaks and rumors from a variety of sources have claimed different things about Resident Evil 9, and here we're going to take a look at a few that have caught our eye. Remember, however, that these are all unconfirmed and unverified details, which means there's no guarantees that they're going to be accurate. We certainly hope some in particular do, however, because they make some intriguing promises, starting with our first pick.
You see? You're learning. The only life that matters is your own.
Good luck. Let's go.
Stars Leon and Jill. It's been a while since we got a mainline Resident Evil game starring Leon, whose last chronological appearance was Resident Evil 6, and even longer since we last saw Jill Valentine. Her last playable appearance in a mainline entry was Resident Evil Revelations, all the way back in 2012, according to a recent leak by YouTube channel Residents of Evil. Both characters are set to return as the primary protagonists of Resident Evil 9. The game is allegedly set 4 years after Resident Evil Village's main story, which means it's several years before its epilogue. Additionally, interestingly enough, as per this leak, Leon and Jill won't be the only returning familiar characters.
BSAA didn't send soldiers. This is a bioweapon.
What the hell were they thinking?
Orders, Captain.
Pick up the rest of the squad. Plot a course for BSAA Europe HQ.
Chris and Barry return. Chris Redfield is and always has been a Resident Evil mainstay, and as per Residents of Evil's leak, though he won't be the protagonist in Resident Evil 9, he will play a role in the story. He'll be joined by fan-favorite character Barry Burton, whom we haven't seen since Revelations 2, with both characters allegedly set to play a support role. Supposedly, Barry and Chris will be supporting Leon and Jill during their missions via radio calls.
Where we are, please, God, send help. Jesus, is anyone even out there?
Evelyn and the Megamycete. Evelyn and the Mold have formed the backbone of the Resident Evil 7 and Village story arc, and supposedly RE9 is set to be the conclusion to that story. As per the leak, the game's story involves the shadowy organization that originally created Evelyn, now mass-producing her clones. To make matters worse, they're supposedly doing it by using the Megamycete, provided to them by Resident Evil Village's big bad Miranda. That can only mean trouble. Antagonist. Resident Evil fans are no strangers to locking horns with evil corporations and enigmatic organizations. And as we've touched on, Resident Evil 9 is supposedly going to make that part of its central conflict once more. Who is that central antagonist going to be, however? Well, supposedly it's going to be a man named Mr. Simon, who is in charge of the mass production of bioweapons for the company on the island. This is a franchise that has traditionally boasted strong villains, though its track record in that department has been a bit spottier ever since the death of Albert Wesker all of those years ago. So it should be interesting to see how this Mr. Simon fellow pans out, assuming of course that this leak proves accurate. Stalker enemies. From Mr. X and Nemesis to good old Jack Baker, Resident Evil games have delivered some of the best and most terrifying stalker enemies the survival horror genre has ever seen. And as per Residents of Evil's leak, RE9 will follow suit. Supposedly both Leon and Jill will have unique stalker foes pursuing them throughout the game. The leak is light on details in this area, but claims the enemy pursuing Jill will be called the Goat Man, which is a descriptive name if nothing else. Main enemy types. Another interesting claim this leak makes is that zombies, or foes similar enough to zombies, will return as the main enemy type in Resident Evil 9. The island's residents will supposedly be infected with the Megamycete, which will turn them into zombie-like creatures, with behaviors ranging from ravenously running after prey to being able to use different weapons.
And failure's not an option.
Let's have some fun, people. Like old times.
Move out.
Roger.
Okay.
Setting. Sticking with the leak that we've been discussing thus far, it also claims that Leon and Jill's mission will see them heading to an island to investigate the aforementioned company and its activities, though they too will be infected and will have to deal with hallucinations of Evelyn throughout the game. No, it won't be the first time Resident Evil will be doing an island setting, but it does sound like it's going to be a fairly diverse one. And speaking of which, locations. As per the Residents of Evil leak, Resident Evil 9's island setting will feature a number of different locations. It claims that playtests over the past year have seen Jill exploring an abandoned forest and Leon making his way through a forest, while other locations on the island supposedly include residents' houses, including several abandoned ones, caves, labs, and an abandoned factory. What does this say about the game's size? Well, open world elements. Many Resident Evil faithful will argue that the series should never go open world, and it's easy to see the merits of those arguments. RE9, however, is supposedly going to feature at least some open world elements. Earlier in 2024, prominent Resident Evil leaker Dusk Golem claimed that Resident Evil 9 will make use of open world tech that the developer built into the RE engine for Dragon's Dogma 2. Does that mean that the game will be open world? Well, it doesn't sound like it. It does, however, sound like it might be a larger and more expansive experience than its predecessors. Longest RE dev cycle to date. No game, certainly no AAA game, is cheap or easy to make, and sure enough, it goes without saying that the developer tends to leave no stone unturned with the development of its Resident Evil titles. With RE9, however, it is supposedly going the extra mile, as per the aforementioned Dusk Golem. At different occasions over the last couple of years, this leaker has claimed that Resident Evil 9 has had the largest ever development budget for an RE game to date, and by the time that it releases, will also have had the longest ever dev cycle for the franchise, having supposedly started back in 2018. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.